Right, so let's go ahead and create the Goobler entity class. So right click on your entity game folder and create a new one. And we're gonna call it entity Goobler. And Goobler obviously is gonna have a reference to the image so that we can have access to the texture 2D that we used. Again, control period does that. So if you want to include something that is lagging, you can just import. Use the using way too many languages. Instead of typing it in, you can always do control period, and it will do it for you. Since it's gonna be moving, we're gonna need a vector for velocity. In this case, gonna hold our velocity. One of the things that we're going to need is the animation that we created. Since we saw that Goobler is going to have an animation of opening and closing its mouth. Since our Goobler is going to be colliding, we could go ahead and implement the whole collision system, but instead what we're going to do is we're just going to have him check for collisions at the moment with the floor, which is what we're concerned about. So we're going to give it a reference to the ground, and we're also going to give it a Boolean variable that's going to let us know. Let me recall this case prior. Since we're going to be jumping, we're going to need to see if we're in the air, so that we don't do like a double jump or something. It's just going to be able to jump once. So let's go ahead and lift this one this way. And also, so that we don't have to, if you notice, we have Goobler looking to the right. So either A, we need another set of images for him looking to the left, or we just apply a sprite effect. So we're going to have him hold a reference to sprite effect, which is going to flip it for us, so we don't have to worry about producing the art or doing any extra logic ourselves. Now for the constructor of Goobler, he's just going to take entity Goobler. He's just going to take the position of where to place him on the screen. And what we're going to do is we're just going to update the position. I forgot to extend game entity, so go ahead and extend game entity. It's also going to complain that we're missing one thing. It's going to complain that we're missing some of the methods, so let's go ahead and implement them. So once again, we're going to take the position and update it to that one. Our source image is going to come from our game asset manager. This is a singleton, so we have to call the get instance. And let's just get Goobler, which is the method that we created offline that I showed you on the last video. And we're going to create a new animation object. So we're going to give it about 300 milliseconds of delay. It's going to start at frame 0, it's going to add at frame 1, it's going to have a width of 32 and a height of 32 per frame, and yes, it's going to loop. Okay, so now we're done with the basic constructor. We're also going to need some important methods to let us know, for example, if we're on the ground. So if we're touching the ground, This is very easy. We're gonna look at the position of Goobler, especially the Y position, and we're gonna add its height. So if this is greater than or equal to the ground position, sorry, the ground Y position, we know that we are actually past the ground or under. Since you really in this game you can't go any other way below the ground because it's covering the entire level, that suffices. The next one that we're going to do is a method, a helper method, that is going to allow us to place Goobler on the ground. And we're going to name it position on ground. And all this is going to do is it's going to modify the Y position of Goobler to be whatever the ground position is. Let me see, ground.getPosition, the Y minus the height of Goobler. Remember that the Y grows in the positive range from top to bottom, so if we subtract, we're actually moving up. So we're moving Goobler up by as much as the position of the ground is minus the height. So it's going to be right on top of him. Right? So, some very simple math at the moment. Again, math will save your life half the time. So, in the update method, let's go ahead and take care of some of the basic inputs. Input. So we're gonna do. I have to have the import keyboard dot get state, and we want to check for left and right, and we're gonna adjust the x velocity accordingly. Is key down. We're gonna look for the left key. So if you're pressing the left key, we're gonna assume that you are moving to the left, and in order to do that we have to set your speed to -x. Again, x goes from left to right increasing, so if we subtract we're actually going to move to the left. I'm going to get also to check for the right, so if you're not going left, check if you're going right. And if you're going right, we're just going to set the velocity for the x to be +5, right? And then one of the things we want to do is we want to say, well, if both of them are up, if this one is up and if the left one is up, I'm just going to go ahead and copy simply because I don't want to type it. Always remember, we're in copying and pasting, not to make mistake. We're not checking for down, we're checking for up. So if the left key is up and the right key is up, so in other words, if both of them are up, that means that you're not pressing a key to move in any direction. So go ahead and reset the velocity back down to 0. Because otherwise, what's going to happen is that you're going to get this skipping, this kind of like if you were on ice movement, and we really don't want that right now. Right, so far we got the moving left and moving right, so let's handle the gravity now. And what we're going to do, we're going to say, well, if you're on the ground, so if Goobler is on the ground, then things are kind of easier. We got to check if you press the space key, which is what we're going to use for jumping. So if the space key is down, let's see if we're able to jump. So, and if we can, we're going to set our y velocity, or rather the velocity on the y-axis. We're going to subtract it -10, and we're going to say that you can no longer jump. Otherwise, if you're on the ground and you haven't pressed the keyboard, the spacebar, you simply want to say, yes, you are able to jump. And this is all to handle a reset, and so that once we touch the ground, we're able to jump one more time. Now, if you're not on the ground, so if Goobler is not on the ground, then we know that we're falling. So what we're going to do is we're going to reduce or rather increase our velocity on the y-axis, so that, remember how we went up to 10, it's going to go 9.5, 8.5, all the way down to a positive number to bring it back down. And I forgot to press the Y. Here we go. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to update our positions. So this is, again, easily done. We're just going to add our velocity. And then there's one more thing that we need to check. Once we have had our velocity, we could be the case in which we have gone a little bit lower below the ground. Sorry. So we need to check once again. If you are on the ground, let's just reposition it. This is just in case that you went below it. And we're going to stop the gravity. There we go. Let's go ahead and also make our setter, since we have to be able to pass down or give Goobler what the ground object is, because we did not provide it with a way to do so in the constructor. We need to provide it with a method to be able to do it. Otherwise, we're going to get a null pointer exception when we try to run this. Also, let's implement the draw method. As for this one, we're going to use one that's a little bit longer than what we used in the past, simply because we're dealing now with the sprite the sprite effects, so that it flips it for us. So it starts much like we used to, the image followed by the position, followed by the rectangle, in this case we're going to get out of the animation. Remember how the animation is the one that's looking at our picture and giving us the frame, the color. And this is where it would normally end. Well, we're going to continue and add a few others. Like for example, rotation. In this case we got none. The origin, we're going to leave it in the top left corner of the image. We're going to leave the scale as 1, and now we're going to leave the scale as 1. And we're going to pass down finally the length. Here we go. That took a little bit longer than usual. But essentially all we're doing is we're sending an effect so that it flips it for us. And one thing that we forgot up here is that whenever we press left, we're going to set the effect to flip horizontally. And whenever we press right, we're going to set it to none, so that when we press left, it flips the image. When we press right, it draws the image normally. And then for the handle events, we're just going to leave it as it is. Right, so let's go ahead and also add the update for the animation, because otherwise we're not going to step forward. Time dot get total milliseconds. Make sure that in the animation, and notice we have made a mistake. We have the lie So make sure it says delay. Now let's go ahead and add a Goobler to the level. So go into entity level and we're going to select private entity Goobler. There we go. Let's create a new instance of Goobler and assign the ground to him. So Goobler is equal to new Goobler. Doesn't matter where we place him, since we have gravity going on, it's gonna drop down from there. So let's add the bricks so that it has a reference to it, so that then we can check for collisions. Don't forget to update Goobler. Don't forget to draw him, sprite. And if you want to, even though we're doing nothing right now, let's go ahead and let him handle events too. Right, so if all works out well, we should be done with all the addition of Goobler. Start. As you can see, we can move back and forth. We can jump. We can actually jump high enough to get the ones we wanted. And that will be for future issues. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching.